Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Money Me Mondays, where we've been talking about preparing, pivoting, and performing so that we can be ready for this economic shift that is happening and taking place here globally and especially in the United States, um, where we are building big wealth by taking small steps, right? We want to just be basic, specific, foundational, small as possible. But the outcome is to be able to have big wealth and draw in that income that we are dreaming about and we're working hard towards. Okay. My name is Jamie Alexander. Just in case you don't know, I am an entrepreneur. I am a woman of God. I am a vital voice. I believe that what God has given me and what He has invested in me, it is my responsibility, it's my purpose to make sure that I pull it out and give it to you so that you can be prepared. I'm a big person, a big advocate of being prepared for anything, even though, we don't know the future or when it comes to exactly what's going to happen down to its details and specifics. I believe that God gives us space to know what's going to happen futuristically. Our job is to just be prepared. There's no such thing as being overly prepared. Okay. There was a famous quote that says, prepare overly over prepare, and then once it happens, go with the flow. And this is what we're going to draw from today, is just to prepare, pivot, and then perform on a high operational level when it comes to your business, when it comes to your personal finances, when it comes to your overall well-being in life. We know that the United States Department of Treasury is going through right now a time where they have to make a decision by June 1st, 2023, since they are running out of cash. But while they figure that out, we as citizens, we as people, we as human beings have to do our due diligence, and that's to prepare, make sure that our finances, our household, our family members, our friends, our circles, our connections, etc., understand the importance of preparing, pivoting, and being able to perform on that new level. So we already talked about preparing, in the last videos. Now I want to shift. I want to pivot. See what I did there? I want to pivot towards pivoting. We want to talk about pivoting more. We want to talk about, we're preparing. Okay, you heard how to prepare. You did some assessment in your house, your finances, your budgeting, your savings account, your 401k, your retirement plan, all of that good stuff when it comes to finances, your life insurance, you prepared all of that. Now we want to talk about pivoting. And we want to land on this up and we're going to talk about the subject just for the next, 2, 3 weeks of pivoting, because I believe it's so important when it comes to any type of process, right? Whether if it's personal, whether if it's uh, an enterprise, whether if it's franchise, whether if it's business, whether if it's ministry, okay? There's come a point of time where you're going to have to pivot. There was a famous quote that says pivoting is not changing the vision, it's just simply changing the strategy. So the vision is going to be the same, the strategy is going to be different. Okay, so we want to talk about pivoting. So what is pivot? If you know it, type it in the comments, type it in the chat. But what is pivot? We hear this word, pivot tables. We hear, pastors preach on this word pivot. We hear, financial gurus talk about pivoting. We see this word being thrown out. What does pivot mean? And today is going to be a good conversation. So I want you to just go in the comments. Let me know, what does pivot mean? What do you think pivot? When someone says, oh, it's time to pivot, sounds so powerful, right? It sounds so eloquent, it's time to pivot. Pivot. Well, business wise, pivot means when someone just stops doing one thing and starts doing something totally different. It's to completely change the way one does things to do something new. It's to completely change the way one does things to do something new. So it's important for us to pivot regardless of what process we're in. whether we're losing weight and, we are doing our health regimen and we get to the point, I think it's called plateau, where your body just no longer, um, tone or lose weight because you're doing the same workout. So you have to what? Pivot so that it can target different areas so that you can continue on losing weight and toning up your body the way you are set your goal out to do, right? So when we want to pivot, we want to make sure that, again, the vision doesn't change. It's the strategy that changes. And I want to share a Bible story about the most amazing people that had to pivot. But before we go into that, I want to make sure we're covering what is pivot. What does pivot mean? Okay. So we already established that. Why should we pivot? Okay. Especially even now, you're probably thinking, hey, my finances are good. I like the way things are flowing now. Business is booming the way it is, now I don't want to change anything. I want to challenge you on that. We have to understand why it's important to pivot, especially now. Especially now. So, what is pivoting? Why we should pivot? And what stops us from pivoting? What do you think stop people from changing directions? Okay. Those three things I want us to make sure we understand today as we start the topic on pivoting in the series Prepare, Pivot, and Perform. Okay, so we already know pivot means to completely change the direction one is going, to completely change the way one does something. Okay, why should you pivot? Especially now, because you want to make sure that you are not being caught left behind or basically caught off guard. Okay. Two, you want to make sure you are flowing with the way the changes of the world. You want to make sure that you are in right standing. You are going with the current flow of not just the world, but the wise. Okay. What are the rich doing? What are the wealthy doing that you're missing on? Okay, because they have already pivoted. They have already changed their regimen. They have already changed the way they do things. Okay, so and remember, this series is for those that are either poor or in the middle class. Thank you for the reminder. So I want to make sure this is clear that I'm coming on and sharing this information because you're probably thinking, "Hey, I'm a millionaire. I don't need to know this information." Or you're probably thinking, hey, I have inheritance set up for me. I don't want to hear this. That's fine for you. But this message is for those that are either qualified or considered as poor or classified as poor or classified as middle class. If you are making anywhere between 0 to 6 figures, this message is for you. Because how many of you know that not even 6 figures is enough money anymore? Okay. Not even 6 figures is not enough money anymore. That's how much the value of the dollar has decreased. That's how much the value of the American dollar has decreased when 6 figures is no longer a lot of money, right? So we want to make sure that if you are making no income to 6 figures, I want you to take your notes today and make sure that you are getting ready, you are prepared, pivot in this economy, in this money, it's in this monetary shift in this country. So remember, why should we pivot? We want to pivot so that we won't be left behind. We want to pivot so that we won't have to be playing catch up. We want to pivot so that we could actually get the wealth. We want to pivot so we could actually reach those that we're trying to reach so that we won't be stagnant. You don't want to be stagnant. You want to always growing. You want to be always growing in your business structure, in your wealth, in your finances, in your mind, right? Excuse me. We want to make sure that you are growing. So that's why you should pivot. Okay. What can stop you from pivoting? Answer that in the chat. What can stop you from pivoting? Anything that could stop you from pivoting. I know one thing, but maybe you know something else that I don't know. What stops someone from changing the way they completely do things? The number one thing to me that stops individuals or business owners or people or individuals, people period, to stop them from pivoting normally is fear. Okay? It's just fear. To be honest, let's be honest. It's just fear. It's being fearful of the unknown. Okay? Because let's say a business owner has a strategy, right? Remember, going back to that quote, but they have a strategy. That strategy has been working, right? Or the strategy hasn't been working and they want to continue to do that same strategy. Whatever the case may be, they have a set way of doing things, right? And it's reaping them a nice little, a nice minimum benefit, right? But when we pivot or when we don't pivot, that fear will keep us there. Okay, let's be here. That fear will keep that person here. But if we end up pivoting and we change directions or do something completely different, we just know that it has potential to get us to a higher level than what we were down here. So a lot of people rather just remain stagnant, remain here, like, you know what, this is working for me. I heard, the quote that says, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Or, so even if there's nothing wrong with it, leave it alone. All of those things. But when we're talking about being proactive in this economy, when we're looking at the economy the way it is now, when we see that the value of the dollar is decreasing, when we see that the Department of Treasury is running out of cash and he has to make a decision quickly, when we see, these things happening, we have to be in a mindset, in a position to say, you know what I'm doing, even though it's bringing in some type of profit, I want to make sure that thank you. I want to make sure that I am growing enough to capitalize or take advantage of the shift that's getting ready to come. Okay. Because right now, where you are, yeah, it could be great that you are taking care of things on this level. But when things are getting ready to shift, because they are, that level will not take care of that shift that's coming. Okay. You're going to be under, is what I'm trying to say. So don't let fear stop you from pivoting. Don't let fear stop you from, going towards a different direction. Don't let fear stop you from shifting in a different route or a different way. Remember, pivot means you are changing a strategy, not the vision. The vision is still the same. It's just the route, how you are getting to the vision. Okay. Because there are more than one way of increasing your income in this hour, in the season, in this time zone, in this time frame. Okay. So we learned what is pivot. Okay. What is pivot? Pivot is when someone takes a completely different route. When someone does something completely different, that is pivot. When one does something completely different. Okay. Why should we pivot? We should pivot so that we can be able to sustain the shifting of the economy that is getting ready to happen. Okay. So that we won't be under. And what normally stops us from pivoting? Fear. Fear normally stops us from pivoting because we are being content where we are. We're being stagnant. We're being, just too relaxed, okay, on the level that we're on. So fear has to get out of the way. Fear has to get out of the way. So bringing back up the example, because as a woman of God, I have to apply my biblical principles here some way, somehow. I stand on that. Hey, probably don't believe in God. You probably don't want to hear nothing about God, but you can't lie and say that those principles in that Bible does not work. You have millionaires and billionaires. You have some of the top wealthiest people that they could be atheists, but they abide by the principles in those Bibles because why? They know they work. Okay. So Some people take the principles and they say you can keep the God, but I want these principles because they found out that these principles work. Okay. A lot of the wealthy has started their wealthy journey by biblical principles. They may not worship the God of the Bible. They may not, acknowledge, the God of the Bible, but best believe that their infrastructures, that their companies, that their the way they move, their strategy, their business plans, trust me, have biblical principles in it somewhere. So I want to share the biblical principles with you tonight of a story that I read that was a perfect example of pivoting. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Luke chapter 5, where we see Simon Peter and when Jesus called his first disciples on the boat as they get ready to throw their net in the water, in the sea, so they can catch great fish. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a great story of pivoting. Why? Because it shows how a man that does fishing all the time, we're talking about Simon Peter, a man that goes fishing all the time. This is his occupation, okay? This is what he does for a living. He does this every day, all day, sun down, sun up. This is just who he is. And he leaves with a couple of fish here and there, okay? But there was a shift that was coming. There was a debt that needed to be paid, and it needed to cause Simon Peter to pivot so that he can go from this little daily fishing of catching probably, I don't know the exact amount, but let's just say he's just catching like, 50 fish a day, right? Just so he can, survive, or 20, 30 fish, just so he can, survive, have food for the month or whatever. But there was a debt that was being owed, that if those 50 fish or whatever the small amount of fish that he normally catches on an everyday basis would not suffice. So what he had to do, he had to pivot so that he can be able to sustain that shift. Because if he would have stayed on that level of catching that small amount of fish and being content with that small amount, who knows what the outcome would have been, because he owed. So here comes Jesus. Jesus comes on the scene. Peter at this time, he's given up because he hasn't caught not one fish. He hasn't caught anything. He's been out there on the sea all day, all night. He hasn't caught anything. Here comes Jesus walking on the scene. Okay. Tell Simon Peter, go out into the deep, lie down the net to catch. And I want to break that down. I don't want to, say too much on that, but I just want to show you guys two things when it comes to this pivoting from a biblical standpoint. How Peter, even though he was, on that level, he allowed Jesus to come in his field, his vicinity, his area, to give him some advice. He had to trust to do something he never done before, and that is to go deeper. So wherever you are, I want to minister to you. I want to encourage you on today that where you are right now, in order to be able to sustain this next shift, you're going to have to go a little bit deeper than where you are. That means you're going to have to do a new strategy. That means you're going to have to do something that you've never done before. And you cannot allow pivot. I mean, you can't allow fear to keep you in that small box. You can't allow fear to keep you in that small confinement. Technology is growing. If that means for you to learn a technology skill or get a certificate in some type of technology skill, do that. Don't be afraid of technology, because that's where the world is growing towards. And you don't want to be left behind. Why? Because when the shift comes and you don't have that expertise or that skill set, you're going to miss out on your wealth. So that is a small step. I hope you're writing this down. That is a small step you can take. is to get a skill in technology, some type of skill, whether if it's in sales, whether if it's in, coding, do some type of skill set in technology so that when the shift happens, you're flowing with the shift. But back to the Bible story. Jesus tell Jesus tell Peter, put out into deep waters and let down the nets for a catch. He says, put out into deep waters, meaning where you are, it's not far enough. Where you are, it's not deep enough. You're doing surface level stuff. Okay. You're doing the minimum. You're doing the basics. You're doing just enough to get by. Okay. But in this next shift where you're getting ready to pivot, you're going to have to go so far deep. You're going to have to go so deep, so deep. And not only go deep, but you got to do what? You're going to have to and let down. When we think of something, when we let down something, we're no longer in control of it. It's out of our hands. We're letting it down. And when you let something down, it's another word to trust. It's another word to trust. You're letting it down. You're trusting the process. You are trusting the strategy in the deep that it may what yield a big catch. And we notice that when Simon Peter did all of the instructions of Jesus, he went from catching no fish to the net breaking. It broke. It broke. It was definitely a miracle. It was definitely a miracle, but it was also a wealth strategy on how we should go out into the deep, trust, let down our nets, and be ready and expecting a big catch. Those are biblical strategies that I want to make sure that you're aware of when it comes to this season of pivoting, when we're getting ready to pivot so that you can be prepared to pivot and to perform. We're going to talk about performing a few weeks now, but I want to remain here on pivot. I want us to be prepared to pivot. I want us to be prepared to pivot. How are you pivoting? How are you getting ready to transition? How are you getting ready to make sure that your family and your household is ready for this transition, is ready for this shifting when it comes to the economy, when it comes to the money? I want to make sure that you are ready, that you are taking the small foundational steps, and that you are doing small things like getting skill sets in technology, or increasing your skill set and adding more to your resume, making yourself valuable more so that you can be ready to perform. Okay. In the meantime, it goes to show that I have a course out. Okay. It is personal financial course, Money Me personal financial course. But we talk about basics of laying your foundation of so that you can build bigger wealth. It is laid out, it is written out, it is developed so that people like you, if you are making zero income to six figures and you need to get back to the basics, it is designed so that you can lay a strong foundation so that when the shift happens, it doesn't knock off your entire system, but you have a stronghold on your personal finances. You have a healthy and strong laid foundation of your personal finances so that when this pivot comes, you won't be knocked off guard. Okay. We talk about the trichotomy of financial wealth. We talk about all these things when it comes to statistics and numbers. We talk about the assessment of the economy and how it affects you and I. But the most important thing in this hour now is for you to have a strong foundation when it comes to your personal finances. Remember, this course is only targeting those that are bringing in 0 to 6 figures income. If you're a millionaire, that is great. That means you're doing something good. If you are a billionaire, awesome. Listen, I need to get some tips from you. But I want to talk to those that are struggling, that are living paycheck to paycheck. I want to talk to the single moms. I want to talk to the single dads. I want to create a course. I have already created a course that you can take advantage of now while it is still available at the price. And you can click the link in the comments. And I want you to I want you to make this investment in yourself right now so that when it happens, You won't be sitting back thinking, why did I not do this when she said do it? Okay. And then you'll find yourself beating yourself up. But it'll still be a little bit okay, because you'll still be able to still work on your finances. You just have to play catch up. But in order to avoid playing catch up, in order to avoid being reactive, we want you to be proactive. I want you to be proactive in when it comes to this preparing, pivoting, and performing on a higher level. I want you to take this course, take advantage of this course right now while I put the link in the comments. And I want you to be able to be confident enough to make this investment in yourself and say, you know what? I am going to make this investment in myself, strengthen my finances personally. So when the shift comes in the economy, I will be safe. I know you heard of many of the financial courses, and listen, warning, this is not a course that's going to get you rich. I'm all about accountability. I am all about responsibility. I am all about maturity and growth. This course was created for those that want to take a hold on their finances, that want to, say, let me just start over on a clean slate, build on a healthy foundation so that you can take those small steps and build to that millionaire status and build to that billionaire status and build to that wealthy place so that you can leave an inheritance for your children's children. Right? Thank you so much for joining. I'll catch you next week on Monday where we continue the series of Money Me Mondays, where we're talking about preparing, pivoting, and performing on a higher level. I'm excited that you're going to take this course and you're going to be so excited that you did it. You need to prepare so that we can pivot, so that we can perform. We will not be left behind in this shit. I'm excited for you. I'll talk to you next Monday. Bye.